Good morning, ladies. How are you this morning? We are now live for our business member spotlight on Thursday. And welcome. So if you're new to the group, welcome to you. This is where we come live and we interview a member of the group each and every week to find out all about you, because this isn't my group, this is your group. So today, I would love to introduce you to the amazing Phoebe Dray. How are you going, Phoebe?
Good morning. I'm well. Thank you, Ali. Thank you for having me on today. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I am thrilled to have you here for a lot of different reasons, to which many of them we're going to find out about as we talk through today, I have no doubt. So just bear with me a sec. I'm just trying to, here we go. I want to bring up so I can see people's comments. So when they're joining us, here we go. So let's get started. So tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and how you got into doing it.
Doing what I'm doing. Thank you, Ali. Well, I am a mum to a little girl, Georgia, who's just about to turn 4, actually, keeps me on my toes, and married to my husband, Dan. And we live on the Gold Coast, beautiful sunny Gold Coast. Well, most of the time. This summer's not been so sunny. And a little bit about me. So I did lots of traveling, but I heard in the back of my mind from my parents, not that they said anything, but there was always this little voice saying, you better come home and actually do something with your life and not just be a traveling bum. So eventually I came home and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, to be honest. So I went to uni and did a basic business degree and loved it all. I just loved marketing. I loved statistics. I loved economics, accounting, like everything to do with business and the subjects I was studying. I absolutely loved it. The only one I really didn't like was law. I couldn't really, just that funny writing, the way you have to write with law. So I don't know if anyone's done a law degree or anything before, but I nearly actually failed tax law because I couldn't write, the assignment. I couldn't write how you're meant to write that funny law. And I know there's a special terminology for it, but I don't even know what that is. But yes, I did a business degree. And at the time, my dad had an accounting firm. He'd been an accountant for many, many years, since he was in his early 20s. And he had a small accounting firm on the Gold Coast. So it was kind of the easy option, I guess, to go and work for him. So I kind of fell into that. And I really loved marketing. But I remember thinking that at that time, I didn't feel that I was creative enough to become a marketing person. And I also just thought there were so many students doing marketing that there'd be not many options for work once you actually finished the degree. So that's why I kind of went into accounting and fell into that. And I did love it, but I wasn't really that passionate about tax and compliance, to be honest. It got a bit monotonous and a bit boring. And as I mentioned, I wasn't very good at tax. So, I really didn't want to learn. I remember going to tax seminars and I'd be practically falling asleep after lunchtime. You'd have a nice lunch. I remember going to Brisbane and you'd sit in this nice hotel and you'd have a beautiful lunch, but it'd be so big. And then I'd be going back into the tax law seminar. I'd be like, ugh, I'm dying. And you're about to fall asleep. I had to have someone like nudging me to keep me awake. So I guess, but then when I was doing my CPA, I actually got first in Australia for, I think it was like management, strategy and leadership. So that was really exciting. And then my dad and I joined my father as a partner in his firm when I was about 29, but at the same time, 2 men bought into the business at the same time. And they wanted our firm to be relocated to Paradise Point here on the Gold Coast. And my dad, it was a really good little business for my dad. Like, it wasn't setting the world on fire, but it was a profitable business. He really loved it. He was, had a really good profit and everything else. But literally from the moment we signed that dotted line, his business, which became my business, went into about $500,000 worth of debt. And we just didn't have the cash flow. We didn't have the profit in the business to actually pay the loan repayments and, pay all the bills and pay our tax. And so cash flow became really, really tight. It was a very stressful situation. I'd say that I wasn't passionate about tax, and I actually talked about this on my Instagram live this morning, but I was really passionate and had a real purpose to save that business because I didn't want my parents to lose everything. Because then I remember actually sitting down with them one day after a night in the office. I was there late at night on my own, looking at our computer screens, and one side showed my tax bill that was due within a week, and the other side showed my bank balance, and I just honestly had no idea how we were going to pay it. And I remember having tears streaming down my face. I think my computer's going to die in a minute. Actually, I might have to run and get my battery.
If you need to, go for it. Hey,
so I was in the middle of my story. Just let me finish this and then I'll run and grab my things. So I remember sitting there, tears streaming down my face, wondering how on earth we were going to meet all the payments. And then the next day having a conversation with my father saying that I felt the only way that we could survive would be to sell his home. And at this stage, my dad was 72 years old. So you can imagine, what a conversation that was, telling your dad at 72 that the only way we could make it through and actually survive was to sell his home. And I don't know what happened. I think that was a really shifting point for me. And I suddenly stepped up and took ownership and took accountability. And up to that point, I'd always been pointing the finger at everyone else and being the victim. And I finally stepped up and said, no, if we're going to make changes, it's going to be up to me. And I just did everything. I learned as much as I could. I started doing personal development, started doing a lot of professional development, really in line with my passion, which was business management, strategy, leadership, cash flow, leading the team. And everything I started implementing just started having a massive change on the business. And I kind of started to step up to being the real CEO of the business. And within 2 years, we turned that business around, grew it to double in size, and enabled us to sell and clear everything out. My dad could retire and I could kind of take a break and have a little girl, because up until that point, I really just didn't have the space to have a little, I just didn't have the space in my life to have a child even, or to have a proper relationship. So it really freed me up to do that. And then I'm just going to run and get my laptop cord so I don't die on you, and I'll finish the story as soon as I get back. Just give me 1 second, Ellie, sorry.
No, that's fine, Phoebe. I love it, ladies. This is real life. Phoebe and I were just having a conversation literally before going live about, I hope there's not too much background noise, and I hope it's okay to say this and to do this, from home. And I said to her, it is absolutely fine, because the whole thing of running your own business, and most of us, the majority of us, work from home. It's just like it. You know what? It is what it is. I've had people who've done these member spotlights, and they've had children sitting on their lap, and actually I love it because it's real. So the fact that, Phoebe, I was just saying that we were talking about a background noise, about you were worried about the background noise, and I was saying how, the fact that you've had to now go and run and get your laptop charger, it's just real life, isn't it? It's business.
Yes, it is. Not very professional. Sorry about that, Ellie. But anyway.
Okay. Look, we've all done it.
I'm learning to let go a bit more these days and be more my authentic self. So hopefully that's, I'm not perfect.
No, that's 100%. This is what I love, and this is what I say to the girls all the time in the group, is just be your authentic self, and if something happens, something happens.
Yeah.
Like you need to go get your laptop charger. Instead of that, then you get cut out of the interview.
Yeah, exactly. And all of a sudden it drops out. I'm like, now I've got to get my way back in.
Exactly.
Anyway, getting back to my story. So I guess once we sold the business and I moved on, I took a few years off, had my little girl, and I was kind of getting itchy feet, to be honest. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And my passion really is around helping business owners to create that successful, profitable business. And I, I guess I've been hiding behind the fact that I'm an accountant a bit, and putting that out there that, I'm a qualified accountant and we can look at your numbers. But I've been finding lately I've got this real burning desire inside of me, more around to help people tap into their passion and their purpose, and through that create their profitable business. So it is about understanding the numbers, but first and I shared on my Facebook Live, I was telling you this morning, that tax and accounting really, accounting, yes, I do like accounting, but tax and tax compliance really isn't my passion. But helping people to really drill down to their passion and their purpose, and using that to inspire them to achieve greatness and to achieve a really profitable business, and having that faith over fear. Because I know Ali's probably the same as me. We're doing workshops and we're doing meetup events and we're sharing on Facebook, and sometimes it feels like there's absolute crickets. I feel like, yes, I had a meetup last night and we were sitting there waiting, and about 7:10 finally one person popped on, and we were like, yes, we've got an attendee. And I think it's, really just about having that faith. I'm really passionate about what I do, and I love helping business owners and having that transformation, helping them to be that confident business owner. Because I know that that's when I really worked on myself, and I really went through that personal development journey, and I really started learning from other amazing business mentors, is when I finally got that confidence to speak up, to take action, and to lead my team. And that's when my business started to transform. So I really now am so passionate about helping other business owners to tap into that, and to have their voice, and have a voice that's heard, and have that confidence to share and to connect with what they love to do, but also get paid for it as well. Because I think that the more abundance and wealth you can create in your life, the bigger impact you can actually have, and the more people's lives you can change. And whether it's in your community, whether it's people you're working with on a business perspective, or whether it's your family, the more abundance and wealth you can have, the actual better impact you can have in the world. So that's my real passion now, and what I love to do. And as Ali and I were chatting before, and I've kind of taken over Ali, so I hope you don't have
I'm just letting you
questions.
go. I love it.
I can talk a lot. But Ali and I were chatting just a minute ago that I do have a workshop coming up in Adelaide. So if anyone's in Adelaide, it's on the 10th of May at the Education Centre, I think, Ali.
I can't remember, to be honest.
Do you know about that, the Education Development Centre? Is that quite a big place in Adelaide?
Yes, it is.
It's like a government type place. Anyway, I'm running my workshop there, but it's called the Business Profitability Intensive, but I'm thinking of tweaking it and being more around like passion, purpose, profit. So kind of doing a few more activities around actually tapping into your passion and your purpose, and having that voice to speak up, and then linking that to your profit. So how you can create that into a profitable business.
Do you mind, Phoebe? Seeing as, because I know in this group we have a bunch of ladies from Adelaide here, right? And I'm just going to do it. We're live, so I'm just going to put it out there. Do you mind if we say to the ladies, what would they like to learn?
Yeah, absolutely.
At a particular event.
I'd love to hear the feedback. Yeah. Because you go and you get in your silo, don't you, Ali? And you probably understand business, and you kind of get in your jar, and sometimes you can't step out of that jar and see what. But I'd love to hear what other people would like to learn. I am an accountant, so I do have that background. But for me, it's also around that passion and profit and purpose piece. So I'd love to hear everyone's feedback around what they'd love to learn, and what would inspire them to take action and to attend on the day. It's going to be a half-day workshop, so from about 9 a.m. to about midday. So just what would actually they would love to learn about, and the reason why they would come to something like that, an event like that.
Awesome.
So I'd love to hear that feedback.
Yeah, that'd be great. So what we might do, Ashley, is not Ashley, sorry, I've got Ashley here who's commenting. She's put a couple of suggestions in the comments.
Awesome.
What we might do, Phoebe, is get you to put the link to the event in the chat.
Yes.
Finish this, and get the ladies to comment on what they would like to see, particularly because it is a live Adelaide event, and so particularly the ladies from Adelaide, because there's a bunch of people from Adelaide, my homies. And and not only that, but you get a chance to come and meet Phoebe in person, and meet me in person as well. So it would be, I'm actually looking forward to meeting you in person.
Yes.
We've actually been out for a little while and never met each other in person. But so I'll get you to put the link into that into the chat later.
Absolutely.
What I want to say is I'm really interested, while you were sharing your story then, what actually I noticed was that you said how you fell into accounting, which led you to do what you're doing now. Isn't it amazing how what happens in, we fall into these things never knowing what they're going to become for us. And so how do you find your business at the moment? You must be have an absolute love for it, the fact that you are now, you've fallen into this thing, something that you didn't really have a passion for.
Well, it's really interesting, Ali, because I'm still in touch with, and I've really done a lot of work. I did a lot of personal development, and I don't hold any resentment. I've got no negative emotions, I guess, to the two gentlemen that we went into business with. And I feel like potentially, not that they took advantage of us, we had every opportunity to go and seek legal advice and go and get a second opinion. And we just, my dad was very old school, shake the hand, business is, what his honor kind of thing. And it just definitely didn't pan out the way we'd kind of been made to believe. But I think in that situation I was probably quite naive. So I'm actually, I'm going to connect. I've been trying to connect with Paul, one of the gentlemen, and we did have an interview last year and did connect again last year. But actually say thank you to him, because that experience was actually one of the hardest, most challenging times of my life. And I know that I probably was very close myself to having a nervous breakdown and burning out. And my doctor actually said to me, it was November, December, and I went to the doctor and she did all my blood tests and everything. And she basically said, look, you are very close to burnout. If you don't stop doing what you're doing right now, within the next 6 months, you're going to be in hospital.
Wow.
And yeah, so it was kind of like this big wake up call. And I remember going home to my husband he was, and share with my dad. And I said, Dad, this business I'm done now. We've got it to a point where we had about another $100,000 in fees we had to hit to kind of be in a real sweet spot. So I knew that in the next 6 months we were going to come up with, cash flow issues again and to be tight with tax. So I knew our sweet spot. We'd hit about 800,000 and I knew we had to get to about 900 to be in that sweet spot. And I just didn't have it in me anymore. Like I'd done everything I felt I possibly could do to build that business up. And I just didn't have the steam or the fuel left in me. And I remember chatting to one of my clients about it this week and saying, at that point when I went to my dad and said, we have to sell it now, that I really felt like a failure, that I hadn't achieved what I'd meant to achieve. But now in hindsight, I was sharing this with my client who's in a situation where he's thinking about what he's doing. I said, but in hindsight now, it wasn't a failure. Like I learned so much, I grew so much, my life changed. And now what I do and share with other people, what I experienced in that time was such a gift, because now I've got such a passion for what I do, and I've got real life experience. Like I have had tears. I have had moments when my landlord has rung up basically saying, when are you going to pay the rent? We're going to shut the doors on you. I've had banks ring up and say, in the next months we had about a $60,000 or $70,000 loan, I think it was, that was for the fit out of the office, and they basically said that if you can't repay this loan by this date, they weren't going to refinance it. We just had to pay it out in full. If you don't make payment by that date, and we didn't have the money, we're going to close, we're going to send you bankrupt. And somehow miraculously I got the money. So I know, I really understand, I can empathize 100% with someone when they say that cash flow is tight and they're stressed. I know that feeling. I know that sick feeling in your tummy. I know that worry as you go into overdraft in your bank and you're trying to make payments and you're putting in payment plans with the ATO and all that. Like I get it. So, it was a real gift, that experience in hindsight now, because I can actually share that with other people and use that as my, to help other people through that same situation that I found myself in back in my early 30s.
Absolutely. And Ashley's just put a comment in, which is really, poignant to what you're saying. So sometimes you need to hit rock bottom to see the mountain and start climbing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can totally agree with that. Ashley, well said, girlfriend.
Exactly. And I think that day when I had to sit down with my dad and say, I feel the only way we can make it through is to sell your house, was probably my rock bottom moment.
Wow.
I remember, there's the feeling, because I didn't live at home at this stage. It was just mum and dad, and they'd mortgaged their house basically to support the business and all these different things. And I was just like, I don't know what other options we have. But somehow we miraculously, some of the strategies I actually teach people now, we did in our own business. And actually all the strategies I teach people now is what we did in our own business and turned it around 100%. And I had business coaches. I went to business events. I went to networking events. I always felt so alone until I started going to networking events and chatting to other business people and realized, what, I'm not alone. There's other people that feel like this too. And I don't have to try and hold it all together all the time. And yes.
So
that was really, really good and big learnings. And that's what now I kind of help other business owners with.
Beautiful. So you mentioned some strategies. Would you mind sharing what kind of strategies and how you actually help your clients?
Well, one of the big ones was, with your business, often with income and expenses, often like income goes up, but sometimes your expenses also creep up with the income. So you get more money, and before you know it, you're spending it on. And a big one I find is subscriptions. Like you kind of sign up to this or you sign up to that, and you think they're going to do all this for your business, and it's on your credit card, direct debit coming out, and you don't really notice it. So one of the things that we actually did in our own business was we sat down and did a full deep dive analysis of our general ledger report, and we went through item by item every single expense that was going out of our business. And I'd like to call it the traffic light exercise. So we highlighted everything that, like in red, was everything that had to go. So anything that basically was not helping us to increase our income, decrease our expenses, save us time, or make more money. Basically, we were like, right, it's got to go.
Yeah.
We became amber is anything that you need for your business, like insurance, electricity, telephone, etc. But you could potentially find a better deal, especially if you haven't gone back to the supplier for a long time. And then green is everything that has to stay, so you can't get by without it. So we did that activity, and through that activity, we also got really creative. We had 2 spare offices that weren't being used, so we actually spoke to the landlord and said, could we sublet 2 office spaces? So we sublet the offices and reduced our rent by almost half. By doing that, and literally by subletting the offices and the other, like getting rid of expenses, renegotiating expenses, etc., we saved about $60,000 in cash a year. And that's a lot of money. Like, that's actual money in your pocket. That's not so that was huge. So I do that process, and I highly recommend people in business actually look at their general ledger report on a regular basis and actually understand where their money's going, because as I said, you can sign up to a subscription or something like that, and if you don't look at it, they can actually just start adding up, and something like COVID happens that you can't predict, and all of a sudden if your sales drop, it's a lot harder to reduce your expenses at the same rate that sometimes potentially your income can drop. So it's really important to actually really be on top of your expenses at all time, and don't let them blow out and creep up. So that's one of the big strategies. And the other thing too is I had a lot of people coming to me when they were getting excited, they're looking at starting a new business, and they never had actually, I'd say, well, what do you want to earn? What would be, what do you want it to actually take out of the business? And a lot of people didn't actually think about what that meant. Like, they kind of, you think, oh, if I do $1,000 in sales, and that's $1,000 to me, but they kind of forget about, the business expenses and tax and all those other things. So what I actually help people is look at what they would personally like to earn. And I call that their freedom number, or their personal freedom number. And then look at what the actual business expenses are, factor in some tax, and then work that backwards to the actual sales amount they need to make on a monthly basis to actually cover all their business expenses, cover their tax, and pay themselves what they want out of the business. And then once we work that out, we then kind of really strategize around what are the different ways, what are their income and products and services that they sell that they can, and how do they need to sell them to make that money. And then I map that out into what I call a 12-month profit plan, aka budget, and put that into their software.
I like your words better.
Profit plan, yeah, put that into their account software, and help them understand. Sorry, my headphones are changing. You can still hear me okay?
Yeah, no, we can hear you.
Yep, perfect. Yeah, and help them map that in, and then work with them to actually understand their numbers and review that on a monthly basis, so they can kind of compare their actuals to their budgets, and then say, well, what did I hit my budget? Did I go over my budget? Did I go under my budget? What worked? What didn't work? What do I need to keep doing? What do I need to stop doing? Because a lot of people don't in business, they kind of just go along, and they never actually take the time to stop and look at what's happening. And if, they'd come to me in March the following year and be like getting their tax and their financials done, and it was the first time they'd ever looked at their profit and loss, and I'd say, oh, fantastic, you made 50, 100, whatever, $1,000 in profit, and now you have to pay the tax, and now you pay me. And they're like, well, where's all the cash? I don't have the money in my bank. So if I've made a $50,000 profit, where is it? Like, what's going on? So I try and help educate people to look at the reports, put in place a budget or a profit plan, and actually review them on a monthly basis. And then they can really start understanding the business, where the money's going, what they're doing, and what they need to change or tweak to get to their goals.
And oh my God, so true. And Ashley's just put, yep, that's me. And I'm going to put it out there. Yeah, that can be me too. It's something that actually you came into the Heart and Soul Business Academy, it was a good couple of weeks ago now, and you did an incredible training for our clients, and you were getting a lot, I actually learned a lot from what you taught us, and thank you, by the way. That was really
You're welcome.
wonderful for you to do that. So I want to say to the ladies watching this, if you are wanting some really valuable information, you're wanting someone to really help you out in this area, Phoebe is the one to go and talk to, because the one thing, that in speaking to you today and you coming and doing your training in the Heart and Soul Business Academy, you are so knowledgeable about all of this stuff. But it's not only that, like I said, it's the personal things that you've had to go through and implement yourself.
Yeah.
And this is why I love talking to the ladies who, in particular, and this is why I work with people who started our own business, because the majority of the time, the reason we start our own business is because of struggles that we've had. And we want to help other people to not have to have those struggles.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how you feel about your business as well?
Absolutely, Ali. And I just, like, even when it comes to talking to people about potentially going into partnership with someone else.
Yeah.
You know, like, not to say, because I don't want to project my experiences onto someone else, but just giving them some tips and ideas around how to potentially, you know, if you think it's the right thing for your business, that's fantastic. And I would never say don't do it if you believe wholeheartedly it's the right thing. But just to kind of give some strategies and tools around some things to think about before you sign that dotted line, to make sure that it's the best possible outcome and the best possible relationship. Because I think you get all excited, you get carried away, and going into business with someone else really is like a marriage. And if you don't work on that relationship and you don't communicate, it's potentially going to fall apart. And if you know, these two guys, they'd been our business coach, but I really didn't know them very well. And we didn't have much time to actually flesh it all out, and as I said, we didn't get any legal advice or anything. So what I highly recommend people do is get the legal advice, go and seek professional advice without the other person in the room, so that you can really talk about what's going on, and then with the other person in the room, going and getting professional advice and actually having a document drawn up, regardless of the structure you're going to go into, whether it's a company, a trust, or a partnership. Going into drawing up like a partnership agreement, or, you know, some kind of document that really steps out and explains what each person's role is in the business, what your expectations are, you know, even down to like how many hours a week you're expecting them to work, or what their specific role is going to be. And, you know, if they're going to be like more the marketing, sales kind of type person in the business, then what expectations do you have of them for generating sales and generating leads, just like you would, I guess, if they're an employee. So you can't fire them like you could have an employee if they're not stepping up, but at least if you've got a document you can go back to, and if you're having, you know, you've got to have regular meetings, and you can go bring that document out every time and have an open, honest communication about, well, you know, this is what we agreed to. Are we still happy with how it's going? And be willing to lean into those challenging conversations, and be open and honest for feedback, to receive feedback and to give feedback, because it really is, you know. And I was chatting to a lady recently at an event I was at, and she'd just recently gone into business with some people. They'd bought a share in her business. So she had her own business, and they bought a share in her business, and were meant to be technically kind of silent partners, but they never end up being silent.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, I just saw a post the other day that she's potentially looking at now trying to get out of that, you know, buy her business back. And, you know, it's a good learning curve, but it's a very expensive learning curve. So if you can kind of, before it all happens, and, you know, everything I always say as well, because this happened to me when I went into business with these two guys, was if it sounds too good to be true, then it potentially is. And that sets off red flags that you really need to do more due diligence at that time.
And I think, and this is interesting that we're leading into this, because I did a training in the group earlier in the week, and it was all about forming genuine connections. And I was saying how, maybe not to the level of partnerships in business, but I was saying how there's been times when people have approached me for collaborations, not necessarily partnership, but collaborations. And because, you know, I know we want to make a success of ourselves in business. So sometimes we grab onto what comes our way. Thinking, you know, we're thinking that it's going to be the best thing ever. And it would be similar with partnerships, I would think. And that, you know, in the end, and for me, you know, when that's happened, yes, it's been awesome to begin with, but it ended up being, it just wasn't actually the right thing. We weren't aligned in our purpose.
Yeah.
And it would be similar, I would think, with people forming partnerships in business.
Yeah.
But
and I think I did it.
More expensive.
Yeah. Well, I think, to be honest, Ellie, at the time, I probably did it for the wrong reason. You know, at that time, I think they were my business coaches. I felt like I didn't have the confidence in my own ability to actually run the business and create the success. So I felt like I needed them in my business to give me, like, to actually help me grow the business and all this kind of stuff, and to give me that personal confidence to actually do it. And it wasn't until I had that kind of moment, you know, the ice cream on the floor meltdown moment, telling my dad about, you know, the selling his house, that I actually was like, okay, I need to do this. It's not, no one outside is going to come and rescue me. There's no knight in shining armor coming along to save the day here. Like, I am my own knight in shining armor, and I need to step up and do this. And that's when I started to educate and empower myself to step up and become that business person I needed to be, to lead my team, number one. And, you know, take this, you know, I started doing YouTube videos to promote my business. I was going to lots of networking events, and just doing whatever I could to grow that business. And I really had to be the person to find that within me, that courage within myself, and the confidence within myself to do that.
Well done. Good job. That's amazing, Phoebe. And
Thank you, Ellie.
now you're helping other people to do it as well. So can you let us know how people can get in touch with you if they would like to talk to you further?
Sure, I can also share the link below to my link tree.
Awesome.
Because so my link tree will take you to, it'll show you all the different events I've got coming up, and will also show you where you can get in touch with me. But I'll also, if you want, like, they can always book in for a free 15-minute chat with me. And I had a free 1 hour chat with a girl the other day, which is probably not going to come to anything, but I just love helping people. And I know when you give with no expectation to receive, the universe works in wonderful ways. So more than happy to have a quick chat if anyone wants to just flesh out some things and maybe, but come along to the workshop. If you're in Adelaide and this has been interesting for you, come along to the workshop, because we'll go into so much, and I always go off on tangents, and I love engagement and questions. So and if you've got some ideas around what you'd really like to learn about on the day, that'd be awesome too, so I can tweak things.
Beautiful. Yeah. So when we put that link in the chat, feel free to give Phoebe some tips of what you'd like to hear. So thank you so much. I love you. I cannot wait.
Thank you, Ellie.
When you come to Adelaide. But yeah, it's been really interesting getting to know, a little bit of the background and how you came to do what you do. So thank you so much for coming on today, Phoebe.
You're welcome. Thank you, Ellie, for having me. I love it. I love sharing my story now. I kind of love it. Yeah, it's my absolute passion.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you, darling. And ladies, we will see you next week. If you would like to be interviewed for the Business Members Spotlight, feel free to private message me and we'll be in touch and we can book a time, because this is open to every single person in the group. Thanks again, Phoebe, and we will talk soon.
Thank you, Ellie.